if you didn't, everyone in the whole world would want to come to Canada. And so age is one of the things we give priority to. Canadian experience is great, because if you've lived in Canada, you know you can adjust. Youth helps people to adapt. Language skills, because if you come here and you don't speak good enough English or French to get a job, it's tough. Back when my great-grandpa came here from Russia and he spoke German and stuff, they could go out and work on the farms, and he picked up English on his own, reading the newspapers. It's much tougher to do nowadays. I know I have an uncle who came here from Paraguay, and his mom, because she'd survived World War II in Europe and stuff, never was really able to adjust. She sort of never got out of her community, lived in Canada for the last 40, 50 years of her life. So there's all those basic things that we put through for screening. And they're not just for the good of the country, they're for the good of the immigrant coming in too. And I've seen this, where some people came to Canada and they were not really a good fit. And that's something that needs to be understood too. If you're not a good fit for Canada, Canada is not doing you a favor by having you come here. And I've watched some people who have struggled economically, they haven't fit in socially, and frankly, they would have been much better off. They came from the United Arab Emirates. They would have been much better off staying there or maybe going back to India where their ancestry was from. So saying no to people is sometimes in their interest as well as ours. So.
One more question, sorry. Again, it's not my question. So, why is there an alt-right group existing? And do you know how many portions are there?
Why are there alt-right groups in Canada, and
so how many are there?
And
why? And then I guess maybe another question is that why? Like this is that really my personal question is that I often hear that if you vote for a social conservative, you're not going to vote alt-right.
oh really?
Some people say that. Well, not me. Like I mean.
I would say you're lining up with people who are always right, not all right. Look, one of the things you're going to have to understand, if you get involved in politics, sometimes people don't like to debate the issues. So what they do instead of debating the issues is they frame the question and call a name and put you in the box. Okay? Mr. Levant here, his son is fairly well known and provocative. They're Jewish. And Ezra was saying he was being called anti-Semitic once. Okay? He's Jewish. And he's anti-Semitic. Think about that one. But that was the way people were trying to put him on the defense of, I mean, it was the dumbest insult you could have come up with. But that's what people try to do. And so instead of engaging on debate, and you see this frequently by people who don't understand the issues, they identify with a group, and you're either for my group or against my group. That's all they know. The way they deal with debate is they call names. Alt-right is one of the names that's, I don't know how long it's been out there, 1, 2, 3 years. It's now been popular. And so that's the way they do it. Look, I'm a social conservative in the Canadian spectrum. You take me to a place like Singapore, where they execute people for drug dealing, I'm considered a moderate. Okay? So it's all a matter of perspective and where you come from in the world. Okay? And there's other countries, so it's a matter. On the Canadian spectrum, yeah. Because I actually think a lot of our values, as far as our social values, the country functioned better in the 1950s than it does here today. Now, some things you aren't going to change or roll back, I understand that. But I'm just saying, when you have really stable families, society is better. Government doesn't drive that in its totality, but it can help and it can hinder. So let's do things that actually help rather than hinder. Okay, I think you had another question. So I'll come back and I'll sweep back this way. Sorry, I know you've been out there before.
But I want to build on this fellow's on pipeline.
Okay, let's go over. Do you mind if we go over here? You're okay? So we'll go here and we'll go back.
I was involved with Northern Gateway, and I'd like to expand on this question.
Okay, so we have an expansion of Northern Gateway.
No, I was involved, but expand on this question. So Trudeau skipped us on Northern Gateway. He says he's approved 2 pipelines. And I understand the Duffy diversion, but the big issue came with the Aboriginal and the extreme environmentalists. And the Aboriginal, we allowed the right to consult to turn into a veto. And I think all Trudeau said is, I'm going to throw $2 billion, but it doesn't really solve the Aboriginal issue. How do you solve those two to allow the pipelines to go?
Look, legally, we actually did have the authority to get it done. That's one thing you actually have to understand. Again, my constitutional law prof friend, he actually writes books on Aboriginal law in Canada, and one of the real misconceptions is that they have a veto. They do not have a veto. Even our Liberal Supreme Court, who I'm not a huge fan of, hasn't quite given them all the power. So when you read something in the press, a legal analysis in the press, it often overstates the facts. We have the ability to get it done if we want to. Might have taken a year or so longer than someone like me would have, but we had the federal legal authority to do it. And if there were impediments, we had the ability through the House of Commons to make legal adjustments to actually get this done. So when they say that it was the courts that forced the project to stop, it could have been done. What happens though is you get to a point where you don't have the political will to take the necessary legal steps to go forward. And that's why I was referring to the whole Duffy thing. Because I've sat in a caucus for way too long of my life, and once people get nervous politically about some things, they don't take risks, okay? Sometimes people only take really big political risks when they have nothing to lose. Politicians are very, in a small c sense, conservative that way. And when you get preoccupied on something, there's only so much political energy to do. And if we needed to pass new legislation or do some regulatory changes on that, we would have. And remember, when you go into duty to consult, if you have a big enough project, you are not going to get the same opinion by Aboriginal communities all the time everywhere. They're like everyone else. 4 Aboriginal Canadians, 5 opinions. No different than rural Saskatchewan and talking to a group of farmers that way. So if you do the job properly, you should be able to get this through.
Will we do it?
Oh, it was done 4 times. I don't think it would be a problem. Had Harper got re-elected in when was the election now? 15? Yeah, the Northern Gateway would be being built. I have no doubt about that. So, okay, I will go back here. So sorry, now you've got me bouncing. Now I'm in trouble. Okay, thank you. Time? How much more have I got? 15 minutes here? Okay, 15 more minutes and we'll shut down here. I'm getting tired here. Are you guys serving snacks or anything tonight? We're serving food here.
It's not
No food. Okay. I haven't had supper, that's what I'm thinking. So I will do 3 more questions here. 1, 2, where's the third? 3. Okay, we'll do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's it, and then we're done, okay?
Certainly, well, federal infrastructure spending. I looked at our sort of constitution and division of powers. It's open to the court federal politics and buying votes. I think we're abusing the constitution.
Let me just say thank you all for coming, or if you're taking off, thank you very much. Go ahead.
We're sort of abusing the constitution. You know, Trudeau's added socially constructive. So I think we're not aligning ourselves with our constitution. Because you have the politicians who have a big check for building this, and it's open to
I'm shocked. Politicians engaging in pork-barrel politics.
I mean,
this is why, and again, I'm in agreement with one of the other candidates on this one, where we talk about moving federal responsibilities back to the other levels of government, including things like transfer of tax points rather than direct revenue. You referenced infrastructure and municipal governments. I actually think the problem is probably bigger with the federal government overlapping into provincial responsibility. Healthcare is classic. Healthcare is supposed to be provincial, okay? We need to roll back a lot of what the federal government has been doing in that and give the provinces a lot more of their freedom. So I think the principle applies to municipal, but the provincial is I think where you need to take the first fight. And you're right, the Liberals are calling everything infrastructure now. It doesn't matter what it is, if you slap the word infrastructure on it, you can justify it that it's going to build the economy, even if it's pure old-fashioned, what most economists call as consumption. So yeah. Okay, 1, 2, and I've got 2, we'll go 2 there, and then we'll go 3 there. Okay, 2 at the back.
So how would you change the Liberal Supreme Court to a Conservative court?
How would I change the Liberal court to a Conservative court? One appointment at a time, unfortunately. One of the biggest things, I think, and you saw this in the Senate, this is something which a guy like a Kevin O'Leary just won't get. It would be a complete disaster. Or anyone who hasn't been, Rick Peterson too. Until you get in the system, you don't realize how much the temporary government depends on the permanent government. And how the permanent government tries to run things and ignore the temporary government. Temporary government being the elected people, permanent government being the perpetual bureaucracy. This is something that wasn't given enough attention to, but absolutely needs to be top priority for the next government. Appointments, 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 okay? You and the federal government do, what, 1,000, 2,000 appointments every year. It is enormous what it does. Now, some of those posts should just be eliminated because they're old-fashioned pork barrel. But you saw the problems we had with some of our senators. We, the previous Conservative government, did not put enough time and attention to making sure that people were of the right moral character and the right philosophy. Those are the 2 first things you start off. If you don't pass those 2, some sort of character and some sort of philosophical question, you shouldn't get appointed no matter how pretty your resume looks for schools and jobs and stuff.
So some sort of heightened vetting.
Pardon?
Some sort of heightened vetting.
Look, actual ideological vetting, not just professional vetting. Look, judges are appointed politicians. That's the reality. So you need to do ideological vetting. It took them until the mid-1980s in the United States to learn this. I have no idea why we as the Conservatives didn't learn this last time. I talked to a friend of mine who's a Queen's Counsel, a senior lawyer in Saskatoon. And I said, we're getting this that there's only 12 or 14 judges in all of Atlantic Canada and lawyers who are possibly qualified to be on the Supreme Court. Is the number that low? He just laughed at me. He said, that's what the Canadian Bar Association and the other liberal groups are feeding up the line. He says a lot more people are qualified. The guys on the Supreme Court, yeah, they're very talented lawyers, but there's hundreds of other people who are just as qualified all across the country. Don't let them bamboozle you into thinking it is a very narrow list of people who can do it. Okay? There's a very narrow list of people who are politically well enough connected to make it all the way up. But don't be shy, push back. The Canadian Bar Association had nothing to do with judicial appointments until 1984. Why? Because the Liberals lost the election.